Captain America: A Brave New World. Is the MCU back at its best? Let's get into the review. Spoiler warnings ahead. Starting off, let's jump into the story. The story of Captain America: A Brave New World. Did I like it? I did. I think it was quite heavy, convoluted in places. You could tell that there was reshoots, I feel like. If you look into it, they scrapped a few arcs in the story and then they've kept it just to this. I liked it. I felt like it took a little bit to get to the bit that I cared about. But once we're introduced to Stearns, obviously after the gamma radiation, you really understand what's been going on so far in the film. You know, he's the one pulling all the strings. He's the one that's made all the treaty, everything go wrong. I like the story of the adamantium and the celestial island being part of this film. I think it's something that has been missing for a while. You know, Eternals did come out multiple years ago. We finally now get some context about what's going on with that. People are rushing over there to get the material adamantium because it's the next big thing. It's better than vibranium. I think, as I said, at times it was a little bit confusing because we all had to remember a 2008 Incredible Hulk film that probably we all disregarded for a while because, you know, Mark Ruffalo came in for Edward Norton and, you know, that film was back then and we've had no real reference of it properly until the very, very beginning of this film. Obviously, Thaddeus Ross is now the president of the United States, and then they talk about that night in Harlem where Abomination destroys the town alongside Hulk. I do like how they made that film, you know, a part of this film. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always felt a bit of an outside film within the MCU, you know, franchise. It felt like a very Captain America film, as it should do. You know, it was very grounded. It was a, you know, not a spy mission, but they had to go undercover and they, you know, they were breaching their own, you know, their own government spaces and things, like, you know, how back in the day we had to breach S.H.I.E.L.D. and it was, oh, the people that you actually are taking orders from maybe aren't the best people, you know, it had those sort of conversations, and then at the end of the day they saved the day. And, you know, and I think it was quite important that we had a film like this in the franchise because it really introduced Sam Wilson as Captain America in its full form. Do you know what I mean? It really felt like he can take this role, he can take this mantle of Captain America, although he is still very much deliberating whether he should and whether he can. But, you know, at the end of the film, when you take down a Red Hulk, maybe I am that guy, maybe I can be Captain America. So I did like the story, I did. I just felt like in places, I think the serpent stuff, I think there was a lot of names of things very early on. Like, there was a little period of time where I'm like, okay, wait, so that's the thing from 2008 Hulk. They're this terrorist organization that are doing this. Okay, let me just wrap my head. Giancarlo Esposito's here and he's doing like a bit part role. Like, I'm just really trying to get my head around this, what's going on. And I do think when it got to the, you know, the second act and then the third act primarily, it made more sense. It made like, oh, I like this, it's connected. It felt more streamlined. The characters in Captain America: A Brave New World, were they good? Did I enjoy the characters? I think this film, from the offset, you know, you're getting it marketed to you. You saw Red Hulk. They had to do that, I feel like, because it's one of the first MCU films that I feel like we've watched where it's someone in the past that was a side character, you know, Falcon, Sam Wilson. And then other than that, who's in it? Do you know what I mean? It was one of them ones where it didn't have the draw of the characters in the film. You know, you don't have your Captain America, Steve Rogers. You have Captain America, Sam Wilson. So you've got to wrap your head around, is this going to be good? Is it going to be worth it? Thaddeus Ross is now played by Harrison Ford, so that was a bit of a draw. But also Thaddeus Ross hasn't been really part of the MCU properly in a while. I mean, he was in Black Widow, of course, and obviously rest in peace of the actor that played him. But yeah, there was no like established MCU characters other than Sam Wilson in this film. So it did feel a little bit like, am I really going to care? But what I'm getting at is, yes, I did. I think Anthony Mackie had a brilliant performance as Sam Wilson. And I think what I really liked about Sam Wilson and what actually the end of the film with Joaquin Torres, the new Falcon, what we found out at the end is like, similar to what Bucky said to him in the film as well. Obviously, Bucky makes an appearance, is that he is a human. He doesn't have the super soldier serum. You know, he's relatable to the people within the universe. Falcon and Joaquin Torres wanted to be like him when he looked at the Avengers. And I really liked Sam Wilson. Like, he's very self-doubting and very, you know, imposter syndrome being the key word he's really dealing with in this film. And he was, of course, dealing with in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. He's obviously worked and trained, and he's a much better fighter. And it's one thing I do struggle with when I watch films. I don't really get into John Wick, James Bond, and Mission Impossible when there's like a human spy or someone that's so much better than the rest. It doesn't make sense to me. It kind of like, it feels unrealistic. And I don't take that with a pinch of salt because obviously this is a comic book universe. Of course, not much of it is realistic. But I like the fact that they kind of address that. He knows that he's not super soldier, like, those things are going through his brain, like things that I'm thinking about, and many people watching are thinking about watching it, being like, he is just a human, like, etc. And they do address that. But one thing I did like, that they give him the tools to basically compensate for that. Of course, he's got the shield, but now he's got the vibranium wings, and I think that sort of touch makes it a little bit more realistic. You know, Iron Man with all of his gear, of course he was able to survive certain things because he had the gear. And now that Falcon has the gear as well, I feel like, you know, when he is taking on Red Hulk, I'm not like taken out of it being like, this is unrealistic, that he's able to fend him off and able to defend himself with the shield, with the wings, with the vibrate. You know, it was a good addition to his arsenal. And of course, the next big character was Thaddeus Ross in the film. Harrison Ford, I think, was exceptional in the role. I like they made a little reference about it being a different actor. Obviously, he shaved the mustache off, so now he looks different. But I think the emotion, he hit the nail on the head. But then it was the anger, it was the switch when things weren't going his way, how aggressive and like over the top and like really aggressive he got, which I really liked. I was really watching this film, I don't know if it's because it was Harrison Ford in the role and it was like just a little bit different, but when I was watching this, I was like, Thaddeus Ross is a good guy, man. I love him, man. He's great, man. Yeah, fantastic. Oh, he's trying to, you know, create a treaty for the adamantium so everyone gets it fairly. But then you got to remember, he has a deep down underlying agenda and he isn't the best person. I just thought the characters were quite good, actually, when you really think about it. Like, Stearns as a villain, he wasn't really a villain. He just wanted to get revenge on someone that done him wrong. Like, that was actually a very fair motivation for him to go about what he was doing. Everyone was just collateral damage, but he had to get to and ruin the reputation of Thaddeus Ross because he lied to him. And then Thaddeus Ross going to Stearns for his reasoning of just trying to stay alive because he wanted to stay alive long enough to show Betty, his daughter, that he had changed. Like, that motivation there makes sense. Like, I really liked it. And as much as I feel like I would like to have seen more of that, maybe. And I think one thing that I have seen spoken about, and I will give the benefit of the doubt to Marvel and Disney, if you get Harrison Ford in the role and he turns into a Hulk that's red, you're going to market the film with that. You're a fool if you don't. You're a fool if you don't. However, if we didn't know that Thaddeus Ross would turn into Red Hulk, the little things within the story would have really hit a bit better. So overall, Thaddeus Ross, Sam Wilson, obviously the two main characters within the film, really hit the nail on the head. I think they were perfect. You know, you got Falcon Joaquin Torres, obviously going to be a bit more of a comedic sidekick character, that he was introduced more in this film. Could be a nice side character with a little bit of comedy to him. And of course, the villain, obviously still alive on the raft in the post-credit scene, Stearns. I like that character a lot, and it's a villain. I can always get behind a villain that makes sense. If you give me a villain that makes sense, I'm all thumbs up, okay? And this villain made sense to me. The motivation was clearly there. He didn't want to take down the world. He didn't have that, you know, that desire and motivation. And I just liked my deliberation throughout the film. I was thinking, Thaddeus Ross, but he's good, man. He's doing good. But oh no, but he's a bit of a prick, isn't he? Oh, but he's good. And then you hear more stuff that he's done, and then that's when he like wants to. I don't know. I think he did want to change, but of course, you know. And then him turning himself in at the end, maybe that is him changing on the raft now, and that's why Betty Ross is happy to talk to him because she thinks he has changed. I just thought the characters were decent. That's my final point on that one. Okay, humor in this film, it definitely didn't feel like a film that was going to go down that route, and that's completely fine. There were one or two moments in the film that were like funny. There were lines that were clearly meant to have a laugh, but yeah, it just wasn't really a humorous film, especially when you look at it next to Deadpool and Wolverine. You can see that film was just hit humor on the head, like da-da-da-da-da, whereas this one wasn't for that. It was very grounded. Like with Captain America films, you don't tend to have that humor. There's maybe one or two things in the dialogue, but I think Sam Wilson as a character now, as like and Anthony Mackie and that new Captain America, I think it has more of a door open for the humor. And now the final bit I want to talk about is the action. And as I spoke about, Captain America now has different things in his arsenal. The main thing being the vibranium wings, and of course the shield. Also, just seeing Captain America play out, flying, all of those things was really cool. Like as an action sequence, it created a whole different element to the Captain America title. You know, the shield being used in different ways than we've seen before, and of course, as I just said, the vibranium wings. Yeah, I'd say another massive thumbs up for the action. I don't think there was any negatives to it. I really did enjoy the final like Red Hulk sequence. I think it worked really well. It felt intense. There's such a disparity in their abilities, and they didn't even try and play it out as if, you know, Red Hulk's just rubbish. No, Red Hulk was pummeling him. Red Hulk was doing X, Y, Z. And, you know, when he ripped the wings and stuff like that, like Sam Wilson was going through it, and he managed to, you know, use his smarts and use his tact to be able to take him down to some degree. And then of course at the end, using his just spoken word with the cherry blossoms and all that to calm him down. But yeah, I really liked the action sequences. I know a lot of people are talking about the CGI once again within Marvel, and it's getting really tedious. The only negative for CGI that I had for this film was that final sequence where it was clearly green screen. It was the most obvious green screen you've ever seen in your life with the cherry blossoms and stuff. Other than that, I can take that. I feel like people just want perfection every time. You can take a little bit of annoyance. Oh, that could have been better. But does that now make the film rubbish? No. So those are just some individual things I wanted to talk about within the film. And you might be wondering what I rank this film out of 10. 7 out of 10 is what I give it. 7 out of 10. It's a good installment in the Marvel universe. It isn't bad, and loads of people are crapping on it once again, as I knew they would. Literally, check out my previous video of Marvel's biggest problem in 2025. People are just going to nitpick once again. Type in Captain America Brave New World in social media on Twitter. You will see people being like, is it okay for me to say that I like it? Because it's so common now that you've just got to crap on everything. Why would it be deemed bad? Like, what was terrible about this film? The worst bit about it was quite convoluted. There was a load of things going on at once at the beginning. You had to really wrap your head around what was going on in 2008's Incredible Hulk. If you were unable to do that, then you would probably be quite lost with it within the film. That was the negatives. You could tell where there were reshoots. It didn't really have like a seamless sequence in places at the beginning. But once we meet Stearns properly, and once we go through it like that, it does well. There aren't many negatives to it after that point. So a lot of people calling out, I don't think it needs to be called out. It's just a nice installment to the MCU, and it builds up Captain America, this new person that now we know is going to be leading the new Avengers. And I think they've done that perfectly, because this character now, we've seen so much he's gone through. We've seen him develop. We've seen him still question himself, even in the moment where he says, Bucky, you dickhead, I should have taken that super soldier serum, as he's walking towards Hulk. Because of course you would. You're a human being. He's risking it all, but he's got the personality, and that's why Steve Rogers gave him the shield, because he knew that was part of him and knew that was in him. So I think it was just a good installment. Everyone moaning about it needs to just lighten up. Before this film, I would have agreed with you, being like, oh, he's not really a lead. Like, how's he now the leader of the Avengers? Now it makes sense. You know, a lot of people are asking, who's going to lead the next Avengers team? Is it going to be Doctor Strange? Is it going to be Spider-Man? Is it going to be Captain Marvel? No, it's going to be Captain America, and it's going to be Sam Wilson. And it makes sense because of this film. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Thaddeus Ross as well. Obviously now he's in the raft, he's imprisoned. Will he come out? Will the Red Hulk be in Thunderbolts? Will the Red Hulk be in the MCU again properly? We'll find out. We will find out. But I think it's a good installment. There was a lot of fun within it. It was enjoyable. So overall, I think it was a good 7 out of 10 Marvel film. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Thunderbolts goes, and more importantly, Fantastic Four. Let me know in the comments down below what you rate it out of 10. Thank you for coming through to another Floppylegss YouTube video. Make sure you drop a sub right now. Thank you for coming through, and I'll see you when I see you.